right? And let us continue with where we left. Does anybody remember what was the last topic we discussed? Yesterday, I introduced you to a new technique of optimization. Do you remember the name? Yes, that's correct. Okay, we introduced ourselves to copy propagation. So that is exactly from where I'm going to continue. Okay. So, screen should be visible to you now. Right? And this is again a very important topic as far as the course is concerned, right? So common sub-expression elimination, we have learned the algorithm for local as well as global. Okay, same thing. We will also see for copy propagation also, right? So over here, what we are going to do is let's understand with this very simple example that I showed you in the last class, where if we are having an assignment of A getting assigned to B, right? Then wherever we are using B, okay, actually it is going to have the value of A, right? Because that is the assignment made. And in between, if we are not changing the value of A or B, okay, then only it holds true, right? So if this is the case, then we can see the result of copy propagation on the entire flow graph, okay, global, on the left hand side of our, sorry, the right hand side of our screen, okay. Now let us study the technique in detail. Uh, there are many compilers, okay, that may accomplish the task of copy propagation in a single global phase, and they do not divide it into local and global phases. Okay, but that is compiler's perspective. Whether it wants to go, it is designed, okay, to split it into two phases or do a single phase. Now let's take this example, right? This example is of a single basic block. Okay, we are just applying it locally, right? It is consisting of 5 instructions. Okay. Now the instruction number is showed in the position column, as you can see over here, right? And the code before we apply this copy propagation, okay, is in the second column. Okay. So there are 5 instructions. A is assigned to B, B plus 1 is assigned to C, B is assigned to D, D plus C is assigned to B, and D is assigned to B. Okay. So what we have to do, we have to see that whether some copy propagation is possible or not. Okay. So that we call as available copy propagation, or in short, okay, it is called ACP. Okay. So I'm not writing the whole thing every time. Okay, we can just use that the name of the set is ACP. Okay. Now initially it will be 5, right? Naturally the set is going to be empty. Now let's take one by one each instruction and see if there is any instruction which satisfies the condition of y assigned to x. Okay, such an assignment, if we have somewhere, right, if we are trying to look at such kind of instruction. So over here we see that A assigned to B, right? So what we are doing, we are adding, right, that pair. We are adding that pair as an element of our set. Okay, B comma A. So with this we know that wherever we find B, we can replace it with A. Okay. So because this is the first time we have encountered such an assignment, okay, code after it will remain the same, because it may be possible that somewhere, okay, we may be using B, right? So B should contain value of A, so we cannot skip that assignment. Okay, so that is not going to get eliminated. Later the value will be propagated. So let's take the next instruction. B plus 1 is assigned to C. So here we see that we have a B, okay, and 1 is a constant, right? It's a literal. So B is there in our ACP, yes it is, and we are supposed to replace it by A. So code after we apply the copy propagation becomes A plus 1 gets assigned to C. Simple enough, right? Let's take the next instruction. Same thing. B we encounter on the left hand side, okay, so we will see that it can be replaced with A. But one more thing is that there is a change into our set of ACP, because again we encounter an assignment. Okay, so what happens? We will add A gets assigned to D, because that will be the code afterward. So we make an entry into our ACP set as D comma A. Okay, right. Let's go to the next instruction. Okay, I hope this idea is clear. Do not make the mistake of writing D comma B. Okay, just looking at the code. Right, from the instruction, don't make an entry into your ACP. Okay, if you do, then you may not be doing copy propagation for some of the instruction. Okay, so you have to be careful, because now D is also going to contain the value of A. Okay, so D can be replaced with A. Instruction number 4 is D plus C assigned to B. Okay, so D can be replaced with A, right? So D we are replacing with A, and that is the code we see over here. A plus C is assigned to B. But now, do you observe there is change in ACP, right? Initially, in previous step, there were two elements. Now we see only one element. Okay, why is that? Why did we remove the element B comma A? What does the, yes, correct. Okay, B gets changed, value is changed. That is correct. Okay, so that is the reason we remove it from ACP, and that is why the name is given available copy propagation. See, in previous algorithm, we were dealing with expressions, okay, and we were talking about available expressions. Now, over here, we are talking about a new technique in which we want to focus on what are the copy propagations. Okay, so we maintain a set of available copy propagations, right? And whenever certain condition is not met, okay, we will just eliminate that entry from our ACP. So at every point we have a current set of available copy propagation. Okay, that is why that element is removed. Okay, now going to the last and fifth instruction, we have again an assignment of D assigned to B. Okay, so we know that D can be replaced with A. So our new code will be A assigned to B. Okay, and again this is an assignment of the form. Okay, value of X is assigned to Y, or Y is assigned to X, something like that, right? So again we have an entry into our ACP, and ACP is B comma A. Are you all getting this one? This is what we have done locally for one basic block of simple 5 instructions. Right. Now we will see that how this same technique can be applied for messing up the elements. Now let's take this second example where we are going to consider the entire flow graph. Okay, so this flow graph is consisting of 6 basic blocks: entry and exit excluded. So if you combine all of them, there are in total 8 blocks. Okay, this is how it looks before we have applied, or before we apply copy propagation. Okay, now let us do local copy propagation on each block. Okay, so in previous algorithm, okay, where we were talking about common sub expressions, there also what we did is, whenever we want to go for global application of the algorithm, okay, we first apply it locally for every block. Okay, we do it in 2 phases. So this is exactly what we are trying to do over here for this example. Okay, is that we will apply local copy propagation on each block. Okay, and whenever we are applying, we will maintain a table, okay, in which position, code, whatever is the instruction, that then the set ACP and what becomes of our code after the copy propagation is done, this table we will try to maintain. Okay, so now for ACP, initially for entry, it will be 5 because there are no instructions, right? Now, applying it on B1. So B1 is having 3 instructions, okay? So we will be dealing with in total 3 positions, right? Now, one by one, we will take each, okay? And what we see over here is A plus B is assigned to C, okay? But here we are not having any X assigned to Y kind of a situation, okay? So ACP will remain null. Okay, it will remain empty. Next instruction is C assigned to D. So yes, it is having that format. So we make an entry into our ACP. Okay, and the code remains as it is. Okay, there is no replacement. Now when we are having D into D on our right hand side. Okay, so what we see over here is D can be replaced with C, and we realize that from looking at our ACP set, correct? So our code becomes C into C assigned to E. Following this, so what we have done, we have applied local copy propagation on block B1. Getting this? Yes? Okay. Now moving forward with the next block, B2. Okay. And because we are doing it locally, you can follow any order. Okay. One by one, you have to take every block and go about it. Okay. So now we are going for the next block, B2. Okay. Over here, it is very clear from the slide, okay, that what we are doing. Let me just walk you through the steps. Initially, ACP will be null. Okay, because it is local, we will not carry forward the value of ACP of B1 into B2. Okay, we have to consider each block independently. So it is 5 initially, right? A plus C is not having that format, so no change into our code. ACP still remains empty. Then E is assigned to G. So we make an entry G comma E and code remains as it is. In next instruction, we have G plus D. Okay, so there we see a G which can be replaced with E. So code becomes E plus D assigned to A. Next is A less than C. So over here we are not having any G. Okay, so the code remains as it is and ACP is having only one element. Fine. Moving to the next block. Here we are having only one instruction, G plus 1 assigned to H. So ACP will remain empty after the block is over, right? And there is no change in the instruction. Moving to the next block, B4. Again over here, there are two instructions. Let's take them one by one. D minus G. Okay, so it is not of the assignment format, right? So no change in ACP, no change in the code. Next instruction is F, okay, yes, there is some mistake over here, okay, of the symbol, right? Let's just ignore it for now. Greater than less than sign has been changed, okay, but it is not going to affect our ACP, right? The flow graph is having greater than sign, right? In the table, by mistake, less than sign is shown, okay, but just ignore that because it's not going to affect our instruction for now, right? And ACP remains empty. Moving to the next one, okay, G into A, right, assigned to B. So again, no change in our ACP, instruction remains the same, right? And we will check for, there is a condition check, right, H less than F. Okay, so there also, there is no change in the instruction and no change in ACP. Last is B6. Now over here, a constant is assigned to C. 2, we are assigning value 2 to C, right? But it is not of the format X assigned to Y, right? So that is why there is no entry made into ACP, okay? And the code remains as it is, okay? So only when a variable is assigned to another variable, okay, we will apply this copy propagation. Following, everyone? Right, so good. So this is relatively simple. Okay, we apply on each block, and for exit, naturally there is no instruction, so it is fine. But it is a very good habit of taking all the blocks given to you in the flow graph, okay, and just mentioning them for the sake of completion. Fine. So before copy propagation, the flow graph looked something like this, and after copy propagation, okay, uh, with the necessary changes made, right, in block B1 and B2, okay, this is the flow graph after local copy propagation. Now, if local copy propagation is done for all the blocks, then we can go for the global copy propagation. So let's see that. So what is global copy propagation, right? So what we have to do, we have to do a data flow analysis to determine which copy assignment reaches the use of their left hand side variable unimpaired. Okay, unimpaired means their value is not getting changed, okay, in between. So for this, what we have to do, we have to maintain two sets, copy and kill. Okay, so you will be able to relate this copy set is just like available expressions. Okay, but because this is copy propagation, we will name the set as copy. Okay, otherwise the technique you will also see that it is quite similar. So if you have understood that iterative algorithm which we used for local and global common sub expression elimination, okay, then over here also your task will be very easy. Okay, so we will define the set copy of I for each block I, and we will define the set kill for each block I. Okay, so let's see how we are supposed to do it. Okay, now we will maintain both these sets as quadruple. So each element will in turn have four values, okay, which will combine to form one element into our set, right? The quadruple. Now u and v, okay, are the copy assignment variables such that v is assigned to u. So we will write the first value, that is u, comma v. Third element into our quadruple, or third value in our quadruple, is going to be the position in the block I. Okay. So POS is the position in the block and block number is I, where this assignment is happening. Okay. Make sure that neither u or v is assigned or reassigned later in that particular block. Okay, that we have to be careful about. So that is our copy set. Next is kill. Okay, so it is a set of quadruples in which, okay, a copy assignment is occurring at a position POS in a block which is a different block from the block under consideration. Okay, so for that we have to look for all the other blocks. Okay, and if somewhere a copy assignment is made, right, then we will just put that into our kill set. Okay, so concept is quite similar to the previous algorithm. So again, you will be able to relate very well, right? Now let's see for our example. Okay, so over here we are looking at this example and we will try to find out copy and kill for this given flow graph. Okay, so this is the flow graph which we will take for our example, right? Now you can check for all the copy sets for each and every block. So for entry B3, B4, B5, B6 and exit, okay, there are no assignments, right? So they are all empty sets. But in B1 and B2, there is an required instruction, okay, is available. So D comma C, okay, in block B1 at position 2 inside that block, okay, and G comma E, that is E is assigned to G, right, in block B2 at position number 2 again. Okay, it so happens that again it is the same position number 2 in that block. So these are our copy sets. Okay, now let me show you what will be the kill set, right? This is one more way of representation. Okay, vector notation. So many reference materials you may find that they, instead of denoting this quadruple as an element of the set, okay, they use this vector notation. Okay, so what happens is that first and foremost you have to find out what are the elements in the set, right, and then give a bit position to every element. Okay, so bit position 1, for D comma C, and bit position 2 likewise. So over here we are having only 2, so we will be dealing with only 2 positions. Okay, and we will write our vector 0 0 if none of them are present, and 1 if that element is present. Okay, so 1 0 will be the vector for B1, and 0 1 will be the vector for B2. Okay, this is one more way of representation. Next is the kill set using the set notation. Okay, so for kill set, let us see, okay, how this kill set is determined. Okay, so entry naturally it will be 5, right? Now, which element is getting changed? So over here we are dealing with these two quadruples. Okay, D C B1 2 and G E B2 2. Okay, these are the two elements that we are concerned with. Now, which of this will be killed, or which of this gets killed at any position in any block? Okay, that we want to know. So in B1, if you observe, okay, the value of E is getting changed, right? Value of E is getting changed, right? So that is why it goes into the kill set of B1, right? Because it is part of the copy set of not B1, it is part of copy set of some other block, right? So what our definition said over here is that it should not be the same block. BLK should not be equal to Y. Okay, so over here you see, right, that what gets killed in B1, okay, some copy propagation of B2 that is now part of the set. Okay, now for all other blocks, okay, if you carefully look at the instructions, okay, there are no elements, okay, that can go into the kill set. Okay, we have to just focus on E or C being assigned. Okay, so E or C is not getting assigned in B2, B3, B4, and even in B5. Okay, but now if you observe very carefully, in B6, C is getting assigned though to a constant value, but it is getting assigned. Okay, so it is now put, so the element D comma C comma B1 comma 2 gets placed in the kill set of B6. Why did we do it? Because there is an assignment made to C. Why did we put the element G comma E comma B2 comma 2 in B1? Because E is getting assigned, right? And for kill set, not that block, but all other blocks we have to consider, okay, and then put the entries. Are you all getting this one? Okay, so this is how you have your kill set. This again can be represented with the vector notation. Okay, just like we had the copy for all the blocks using vector representation. Same way, we will have the kill sets represented with the vector representation. Okay, now we will see that how we will be using the algorithm. This algorithm that we are going to use, okay, I have directly taken the example because the flow of the algorithm is the same as what we had done for common sub expression elimination, the iterative algorithm. So similar thing you will observe over here, right? So let us initialize CP in. So if X is entry, CP in is 5, and if it is some other block, okay, for all the other blocks, it is U. Okay, and U is what? It is union of copy of all the blocks. So just like in eval we did, okay, if you remember, this week itself we have done that example, right? So we took a union of all the sets of eval, same way we will take a union of all the copy sets. Fine. So now CP in for all the blocks will look something like this. Okay, here I have given the set notation as well as the vector notation. Okay, because if you try to look for some other examples of copy propagation, okay, both these notations are quite useful, right? So you may find them. That is why for your convenience, both the notations are shown over here, right? So union means both the elements will go for B1, B2, B3, B4 up to exit. Even in exit also we will put both the elements, right? Because these two things can be an entry or it can be in the in set of CP for exit. Fine. And for entry, it will be a null set. So CP in for all blocks, values are ready with us. Fine. Now, I will be discussing the data flow equations for CP in and CP out. Okay. I hope this idea is getting cleared. Okay. That because we are looking at global application of the algorithm, right? So we will have to maintain this CP in and CP out. So we have to know that what are the copy propagations that are available on the entry to the block and what copy assignments, right, are available on the exit, right? So what the condition we have to check for being available on the entry? If it is available at the exit from all predecessors of block I, right? Then we will put it into the category of available on entry. And available for on exit, it means that it is there in copy of that particular block J, or it is available on entry to the block J and it is not getting killed by that block. Okay, so either it is getting generated or that copy assignment is part of that block, or it is coming from the in CP in, it is coming from. Okay, so it is there in CP in, but it is not getting killed in that block. Okay, then it becomes available on exit. Clear? So this is the concept. Now these are the equations that we are going to use. Okay, so CP out. Uh, we will directly discuss the okay, let me just tell you the initial instructions, also equations, right? So CP in is found by taking an intersection of all the CP outs, okay, of the predecessor. So whatever predecessors are there, if there are more than one, right, then you have to take an intersection. Fine. And then CP out is calculated with the equation, or it is found with the equation by taking the union of copy of I for that block, and you take a union with CP in minus kill. So it is there in CPN, right? Sorry, if it is there in kill, then you take it out from CP in, okay? Then whatever elements you have, just take a union of it with the copy of that block. Fine. So, same equations, okay, using CP in, right, can be written for CP out as well as for CP in, right? Um, so these are the two equations we will be using, okay, our data flow equations for our example, right? So now one more thing. Here, it may be possible that because our problem is a forward problem, right? Because we are moving from entry to exit, we are moving forward. Okay, we are going to manage our work list in reverse forced order, or we can also call it pre-order. So every block is taken into account before its successor. Okay, and the reason for doing something like this is that all the predecessors must be available for a particular block when it is getting evaluated. Okay, so whenever you are taking any block into account, okay, its predecessors should have been considered. So one of the possible order is that we take the sequence of blocks like entry, B1, B2, B4, B6, B3, and B5. Okay, so this is one such possible order, okay, of our working. Other orders are also possible and they also can be taken, okay, but this is one such which I'm going to use in the example, right? So let us start. And now we have to remember we are applying iterative analysis. So the order of blocks that you have taken, okay, for your work list, okay, that you have to use every time in every iteration. So you cannot change it. So once you are following a particular sequence of considering the blocks, same sequence you have to consider for all the iterations. Okay. Now I'm walking you through the example, right? So CP in of entry is 0, 0. Okay, 0, 0 means if you look at the set notation, it will be an empty set. If you take vector notation, okay, it is 0, 0. Okay. Now we will take the next block. Next block is B1. Okay. Now see, for common sub expression elimination, we had used set notation, and there were so many things we had to write. Okay. Now over here, as the elements are themselves quadruples, okay, then our set will become too tedious and we tend to make mistakes, okay, in writing. So for simplification, it is advisable to use the vector notation. Okay, if you do it with set notation, I'm not saying it will be incorrect, but this is for convenience that the vector notation is used. Okay, now for block B1, its predecessor is entry. Okay, so applying the algorithm, okay, the data flow equation, we get CP in of block B1 as 0, 0. Okay, now we are finding or we are trying to find CP in. Okay, uh, so here what we have done is we took this equation by removing CP out. Okay, we replaced it with CP in. Okay, so we have to compute only one vector or one set for every block. Okay, now B2 has got two predecessors, B1 and B5. Okay, because this is the same example, I'm sure you remember, right? It has got two predecessors. So what we have to do, we have to take an intersection, okay, for each of the blocks, right? B1 as well as B5. So you can see that the equation is shown to you, right? Then in the next step, I have replaced it with the values, right? CPIN and kill we had already found previously, right? And if a value is getting changed, we know that we have to use the new value. Fine. So finally, if you look at all the set operations that we are doing, union, intersection, difference, okay. Finally, our CP in of B2 will be the vector 1, 0. Okay. So I'm sure everybody will be able to work with the vector notation. If still you are not comfortable or if you have got used to the set notation, okay, you can just go by the traditional way of writing the whole set with the quadruple. Okay, that is also fine. No issue with that. Taking the next block. So in our work order list, we had said that after B2, we will consider B4. See, from B2, if you look at the graph, let me show you. Okay, if you look at the graph, there are two paths. Either we can take the path to B3 and then go forward, or we can take the path from B4 and go forward. Okay, so I have selected that I will take or consider B4 first. Okay, then I will take B3. Right. So that is the work order list I have determined, right? This is what I'm going to use. So after B2, I'm taking B4. Okay. Now B4 has got a predecessor which is B2. Okay. So now B2's CP in we had already found. Okay. Over here. So what we are doing over here, which is different from a subcommon expression elimination, is that we are using the old value of CP. Okay, we are not using new value, because what we have done is we have combined the equation over here. Okay, we are not making a comparison of old value and new value for out. Okay, we are only focusing on in. That is why you will observe that for every block, we are taking the old value. We are not taking the newly computed value, right? Because see, we can follow different work order. Okay, we can select the blocks in different orders. Multiple options are possible, right? And if we happen to take the new value, okay, for every flow, we may not get the same answer, but answer should always be the same, right? Whatever is the result of our copy propagation should remain. That is why, okay, we are taking the old value, okay, and then putting them in the equation gives us CP in of B4 as 1, 1. Fine. taking the next B6. Okay, so B4 is the predecessor of B6, right? So we are taking B6 and then we are finding the value of CPE. Okay, um, I hope all of you are following this. Okay, and then we have B3. Okay, and then we go for B5. Same equation we have to follow, right? And we have to make sure that the predecessors are already taken into account before we consider a particular block. Getting right? And finally, we go for exit. Now, because we are talking about the CP in set or CP in vector, okay, for exit also it becomes necessary for us to compute it. Okay, it was not like the case, right, when we were talking about the outset, right? Then it is not necessary because there is nothing that goes out of exit, but there is obviously something that goes in the exit block. Okay, so that is why it becomes necessary for us to compute it. Okay, so when we did for the very first time, okay, when we just took a union, okay, we had the vector 1 1 for all the blocks except for entry. But when we took one more pass, okay, we took an iteration, right, by taking the order of the blocks as entry B1, B2, B4, B6, B3, and B5, and then exit. Okay, we are having these values, okay, that you can see in the second column displayed in blue. Okay, this is the summary of what we saw in previous 6 slides, right? With the steps, this is the final answer. Okay, are you all following this one, right? Okay, because now you know the technique, okay, I'm not making it compulsory for you to calculate with me, right? Because you have done calculation for common sub expression elimination, so you have got an idea of what exactly you are expected to do. Okay, so with the end of second pass, these are the values. If you have any questions at this stage, okay, please ask. Okay, otherwise we will go for the next iteration. Okay, should we go for the next iteration? I'm waiting for response. Okay, let's assume that you have understood, right? Still, once again, I'm asking you if you have any questions, okay, regarding how the technique is applied, then we are going for one more iteration, okay? So if you had missed out something previously, you can see it in the next iteration, right? And why we are going for next iteration, can anybody tell me? Because we are having different vectors between first and second pass. Okay, if the vectors remain the same, it means that now we are not supposed to take any further iteration. Okay, till the value becomes constant for all the blocks, okay, we have to go on taking the iteration, right? So over here, as the values are different for many of the blocks, right? For B1, B2, and exit. Okay, in between pass 1 and 2, okay, values are getting changed, right? For remaining blocks, it is same. But for these blocks, as the value is getting changed, okay, we have to take one more iteration. So now this is our third pass, okay. So in the third pass, again, we will start from the entry block, okay, and apply our iterative analysis, okay. So now CP in at entry is no predecessor, so nothing to do, fine. Now we will take block B1. Now when we are taking the values, we will take the values from the first pass. Sorry, from the second pass. When we were doing the second pass, we took the value from the first pass, right? So when you are doing it on paper, right, here I am displaying the values in a slide. Okay, so for every block. But if you are doing it in your notebooks, okay, you will always have reference to this particular table. Okay. So what I would advise you is that whenever you start an example for copy propagation, this iterative analysis, create this table, right, and keep on adding columns, okay, and make entries, final entries into this particular table, right, so that you can always look up to the values and you will be able to see the difference, right. When you finish one iteration, okay, one more pass, okay, just make an entry into the column beside it, okay, so that will become very easy for you to take references. This is block B1. Okay, entry is its predecessor. Putting it into the data flow equation, we find that CP in of B1 is 0, 0. Now taking the next block. Okay, so in the next block, okay, what we are having is CP in of B2. Okay, but here we have to take intersection of both the predecessors, B1 and B5. Okay, so we take an intersection of our data flow equation for both these predecessors, and finally we have the value of CP in of B2 as 1, 0. Okay, moving further with the next block, after B2 we will take B4. Okay, like I mentioned previously, okay, you should keep your work order fixed. Okay, you are not supposed to change it with every iteration, right? Whenever you did it for the first pass, okay, it was not going to matter because it is just the union of all, okay. But for subsequent passes, it becomes very necessary that you take the same order of the block. If you do not do it, okay, you will not get correct answer, okay. So you can try it out if you wish and if you have time, okay. Otherwise, just accept this fact, right, that you have to take the same order, okay. Going for the block B4, B2 is its predecessor, and putting in the equation, we have the values 1, 1. Okay. Now taking the next block B6, okay, again we are having the value 1, 1. Taking the next block B3, we are having the value 1, 1. Okay, after putting it into the equation. Then we are having B5, okay, B3, B4 we have already computed before it, right? And then we are taking this particular block and we are finding by putting it into the equation that CP in is 1, 1. Okay. Now for exit, it is 0, 1. So finally, putting it into the table, if you see, right, like I told you, you have to just maintain this particular table, right? So what do you see over here? In pass number 2 and pass number 3, okay, the values have become constant. So we can now stop. Okay. So we have to always look for no change situation. If there is a change, we will have to take one more iteration, right? So in this example, we had to take 2 iterations after the first original one with initial values, right? And then for further reference, okay, we are just using the set notation also. Okay, CP in the set notation. Fine. Once these sets or vectors are ready, okay, now we will use them, okay, to do the actual global copy propagation. Okay, so shall we see that? Right. I hope this idea is clear, right? That when an iteration is supposed to stop, whenever you see that there is no change. Okay. Now, if you write a code, okay, and if you do an implementation and go for one more pass, you will see that the values have now become constant. They will not change. Okay, so you can safely stop. Now we are applying our global copy propagation. So what we did so far was the prerequisite for applying global copy propagation. Okay. So now comes the actual algorithm and the actual steps. Okay. So what we have to do, right? So what is the first thing is that we must have done the local copy propagation on all the blocks. Okay. So for our example, we have already done it, right? So that would be very convenient, right? And for your practice, I would advise you that you can try it for the you already have the data flow graph for the quick sort example, right? If you want for practice, you can use that and apply this algorithm, right? So it will give you a thorough practice of both the um, optimization technique. Now let's walk through the algorithm or the steps of the algorithm. For each basic block, set ACP as the quadruple. Okay, so this is what we have already done, right? What are the available copy propagation? Okay, that set we will determine for all basic blocks. Next, you will do the local copy propagation, okay, for each and every basic block. Okay, that is step number 2, right? So for this example, right, um, we will take CP in of B1 is 5, right? So now let's take each block in the order, okay? So CP in we had determined over here, right? We have this CP in after the iterations, okay? These are the values. Now we will consider all these new CP ins only, okay? Now we will take one by one each block, okay? Now see, independently, we had considered all the blocks, okay? But now we will do it globally, okay? But then also we have to do it block by block. So first we will do it for block number 1, okay? So if you see, change the values are already there. We have done local copy propagation already into this flow graph. And now what we are doing, okay? We will take each and every instruction in the block. A plus B is assigned to C, but our ACP is 5. Okay, right? And the ACP will remain D comma C after the block gets over. Okay. Now for block B2. Okay. So now for block B2, we already know that there is one element. Okay. We have got that information from CP in. It is coming in. So ACP in the initial, before we even consider the first instruction, it will not be empty, but it will have the element D comma C. Are you observing the difference between considering the local copy propagation for independent blocks and now it is global applied, okay, by taking into information of other blocks also, okay? So D comma C, right, and wherever necessary we will make the changes, okay? So code after, okay, for first two instruction there is no change, right? For the third instruction, okay, after this assignment is made, okay, again what we have to do, we have to replace D with C, okay? How did we decide that D is to be replaced with C in the third instruction, right? Because we looked into the ACP set, okay? So over here, because we are taking one by one each block, okay, our ACP is containing only 2 elements. No need to go for quadruple, okay? That information is not necessary, right? So we are applying to block B2. Okay, this is how, and after this is applied, okay, code is shown to you in the slide. Okay, it is visible to you. Now taking the next block B3. Okay, so over here, okay, we have already found the values of in set. We have already found CP in. Okay, so here now the order is not going to matter. Okay, whether you take B3 or you take B4. Okay, that whole thing we have already resolved. We have already considered the predecessors when we found the value. Okay, so now for B3, okay, there are two elements in the set, D comma C and G comma E. Okay, and G you encounter over here. Okay, G plus 1 is there into my expression. So G gets replaced with E and set remains unchanged. This is for block B3. Moving to the next block, B4. Again, starting ACP will contain 2 elements, right? D comma C and G comma E, right? And see, D minus G is our first instruction, right? So D is to be replaced with C and G is to be replaced with E. So code after you see over here, C minus E gets assigned to F. Okay. In next instruction, there is no change, right? And after this block is over, ACP remains as it is. Okay. No change in ACP. Next, we are now considering block 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, we have already seen. Now looking at block 5. Okay, in block 5 initially two elements. Okay, now G into A. Okay, so can G be replaced with something? Yes, it can be replaced with E. How did we find it out? Looking into ACP. So now code becomes E into A. Okay, fine. Next is we are making a comparison of H and F. Okay, but none of the variables can be replaced with anything. Okay, there is no copy propagation. So this is end of block 5. Finally, looking at block 6. In block 6, okay, D can be replaced with C. Okay, but we are having C in our instruction. Okay, so there is no change into our code. Right? Okay. So with this, right, all the major blocks are over. Now in exit, we have one element in ACP, but there are no instructions on which we will apply it. Okay, so we end. Okay, or we stop. And finally, what we have is this becomes our flow graph after we have applied local and global copy propagation. Okay. So I think, right, this should be sufficient enough, right, to get an idea. This one example, right, we have taken it thoroughly, step by step, right, and all the information will be shared with you, right. So whenever you want to practice, okay, on paper, right, you can just walk through the slides, right, you will get all the information, right? And if you are thorough with this particular example, I would advise you to try out the quick sort flow graph. Okay, that you can use for practice. Okay, so I think with this, I should conclude the session. If you have any questions, please ask me. Okay, otherwise, as this is the last session before the sessional from my portion. Okay, so from my portion, this will be the syllabus. Up to this month will be the syllabus. Okay. So you may take your break now as it is. I see many people are already leaving, right? So just enjoy your break, right? And all the best for your exam.